Welcome everyone. I am back here, and we are all back here for another 8 p.m. concert, 8 p.m. Central Time, that is, which can only mean one thing. It is dinner time at Katie Manning's house. Thank you so much for being here with me. I think this is number 26 in a row, which is really exciting. And I'm so glad that you're here to enjoy another one of these concerts. Hey, Inky's here. Yay. Oh, this is great. This is going to be wonderful. So just to let you know, first of all, I'm going to do this a little bit differently. There is absolutely no way that I can do these concerts and really have any kind of online presence whatsoever without help. And the photographs that I use for the thumbnails were taken by the wonderful photographer Jen Rosenstein. I had a photo shoot with her, I think it was 2 years ago, roughly around this time. It was around the time of her marriage. I think it was 3rd or 4th week of May 2 years ago. And she is a monstrously talented photographer, and I'm just really grateful that she took the time to meet with me. In fact, I'm not entirely sure I'd be able to do that now because she's just so busy. But just a wonderful collection of photographs that are mine to treasure. And all of the graphic design for this channel, it reminds me of being on YouTube, but all of the graphic design that I have is done by Mr. Bill Gaines. He's designed my website, and he does all the graphic design for me. And so I'm just really grateful because there's just really no way that I can do this without help. Speaking of help, I'm also broadcasting from Access Contemporary Music, which is my place of employment. This is where I teach, and I'm also the director of operations here. We have 4 locations throughout Chicago, and I'm broadcasting from the Ravenswood location, which is very close to my home, which is why I spend a great amount of time here, because this is a place that I feel safe. This is a place where I feel productive. I did try and do things remotely from my home, and I just really didn't enjoy that. And so I've made the decision to come down here and work from here. So we are all still doing our lessons remotely. We're doing our lessons online over Zoom. I know there are some teachers who prefer to use FaceTime or Skype, but I'm really lucky. I've been spared a lot of these problems that I've been reading about with regard to Zoom, but I've had a really good experience with it. I'm not sponsored by them or anything. I should also let you know too, and I'm really embarrassed that I've sort of been, hold on. Oh dear. Hold on. Hold up. Did OBS disappear? No, it didn't. Okay, sorry. I was, for a hot second there. I got this weird error message, and I thought that I had closed out of OBS, which was really frightening. Sorry about that, everyone. So I also want to let you know, speaking of help, and this is something that I should have mentioned a while ago, but my wonderful fake niece, Ollie, at 8 has her own little side hustle. So she has quarantine time soaps, which you should totally visit. Bill, can you put the link to the Etsy store? Because I have been a wonderful recipient of these. So the whole family gets involved with this, making soaps out of the home. So you should definitely check out Quarantine Time Soaps. Sorry, for a second there I was like, oh man, OBS is done. But yeah, so Quarantine Time Soaps, and that link is coming. So anyway, that have been all my commercials. So tonight is the 3rd week in a row that I am playing a movement from Herman Beeftink's suite for flute and piano called Seasons. The first, of course, was spring. Last week was summer. And this week is autumn. And autumn is unusual. It's the first 2 movements. Well, the whole piece is more of a duo, really. It's not solo flute with piano accompaniment. The two instruments are very much equal partners. And in fact, the third movement, so the second movement is very, very intense for the flute. And the third movement, Autumn, is sort of a cool down moment for the flute. The piano really takes over. So the flute really is very much a supporting player in this movement. Very calm, just really lovely music. And if I were playing this all in one unit, all four movements as one cohesive piece, this would sort of be my time to take a breather a little bit. And then, anyway, this week actually I have two of Mr. Beeftink's pieces planned. On Friday I'll be playing a quartet that he wrote for four flutes, which actually uses alto flute and piccolo as well, called Frequency, which is a piece that I really enjoy, and I'm looking forward to having you hear that. But anyway, without further ado, this is Autumn from Seasons by Mr. Herman Beeftink. I've said before, and I'll say it again, I really prefer to perform pieces whole and entire. You know, instead of doing portions of a work, you know, a multi-movement work, I like to perform them completely if I can. However, I think that music like this that Mr. Beeftink writes really benefits from being separated so that you can appreciate each element individually, because the whole piece is just lots of rich harmonies and really lush, expansive sort of writing. And so I really wanted to give you, the listener, an opportunity to appreciate each movement individually. I've never performed the whole piece completely, although I plan to, certainly. But as a way of introducing the piece to you, I wanted you to be able to evaluate each movement intrinsically on its own merit. Autumn, this movement was unsurprising to me completely. In fact, I mean, as far as I'm concerned, it's all too short. But of course, what better compliment could you pay a writer to say that their music is too short? We wish there to be more. Spring was unsurprising. Summer took me very much by surprise. So if you haven't seen that yet, you should definitely watch it. It was a very surprising, I mean, thoroughly enjoyable, but it was definitely a different take on summer than I would have expected, but no less pleasurable. How do I put it? So, and accordingly, now I feel like is the right time to bring up, rather to perform frequency. I've wanted to perform this for a week and a half. I mean, I've only really been aware of Mr. Beeftink for probably a good week before starting these live streams at all, so maybe a month in total. And so if there are any composers out there, really indeed any creators out there, you really should put your work on YouTube. You should make your work available, whether or not you think it's appropriate to be shared, because there's an audience out there that would otherwise be unable to enjoy your works. And also, that was actually the composer playing the piano part, a very smart move on his part. And as I've mentioned, Mr. Ian Clark, who wrote Hypnosis and writes a bunch of really wonderful flute music. I'm playing a flute duet plus piano of his, Mr. Ian Clark, called Maya, a week from tomorrow, which I'm very excited to share with you. He's got a boatload of really wonderful flute stuff. But it's just kind of amazing, these people that you wouldn't discover anyway. And actually, just a word on that. Music of this sort of style, I think composers and performers can be a bit snobbish about it. That unctuous label of light classical and even worse, new age. Not that I have a problem with either genre or whatever, but they're sort of the scarlet letter of the musical community, because they're, I think, regarded as being lesser musical expressions. They're not, because they're not part of the standard rep or whatever. And I think that's a bunch of nonsense, and I think that's horrible. I think if you can find somebody who enjoys your music, then what else is there to say, really? And it's really wonderful to have pieces like this in my repertoire now, because not everything has to be pyrotechnics and crazy stunts. There's room for all of that. And speaking of which, tomorrow is going to be lots of special stunts. Tomorrow is going to be the works of an Israeli composer named Shulamit Ran. I will be playing a wonderful piece called East Wind, which is written for solo flute. It's I mean, in my opinion, it's sort of the gold standard of unaccompanied flute solos. It's absolutely, it's a monster to play, and it's so much fun and really enjoyable to listen to. In fact, this is going to be sort of a test for me, because I normally like to play this piece in the dark. In fact, I think I've always done it. Whenever I performed it live, I've performed it in such a way that the audience couldn't see me, because I find that the enjoyment of the various effects is diminished if you can actually see how the performer is creating those effects. So we will see. But also, this is an interesting opportunity to show a composer at two very different stages of her career, because Sonatina for Two Flutes, which is the piece I'll be opening with, was actually written when she was 12. And of course, stylistically, she's changed a ton since. I think she's in her 70s now. She taught at University of Chicago for ages, and is there no longer, unfortunately, but is still very much an active composer. But Sonatina for Two Flutes was written when she was 12. In fact, virtually every flute student I've ever had since I started teaching when I was 15, I've had learn this piece, because I think it really deserves to be learned. It's a really beautiful piece of music, and I'm really excited to play it for you. So anyway, thank you so much for listening to me yet again every single day at 8 p.m. Central Time, and I do hope I will see you again tomorrow. Until that time, please stay happy, please stay healthy, and I will look forward to performing Shilmi Ron for you tomorrow evening at 8.